We are rolling, I think. Yeah, now we're rolling. Welcome to the second podcast. And we got to come up with a name, but I think it was Barbecue and North Texas Football, sponsored by Coach J's Gridiron Barbecue.
Yeah.
Tonight, we got Rudy and special guest. This is Coach Rudy Hawkins. Special guest, Scott Belcher, all the way over here from Windthorst, Texas, celebrating a big win with the Gridiron boys.
Yeah, Windthorst with a big win over Henrietta on Friday night. So great start to the season, Coach. And what do you feel about the game?
I thought it was a really good win for us and good team win because it was a quality team, quality opponent, and we got a lot of new faces, and that helps whenever you can stick around with a good team, well-coached team. And the other deal too was get in there and you had to come back to win it. We got down late in the game and had to still stick it in there and stick with it and win a ball game from behind, and all that stuff builds confidence. So we're really pleased.
It is. That first win's always the hardest. That first game of the season, everybody's playing hard. Everybody's got dreams and aspirations of a state championship, and getting that first victory is a great way to start. Did y'all celebrate with barbecue ribs or quesadillas?
No, we didn't have anything near this good, but we did have a coaches get together afterwards where my wife made a lot of Mexican food for us, and it was really good. It wasn't barbecue, but it was really good.
That's not bad.
This looks really good. You guys know what you're doing.
I can contest to his wife's hot sauce. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's by far the best hot sauce I've ever eaten. I had an opportunity to meet with you guys out at y'all's coaches get together before the season and y'all's meetings and things like that, and had an opportunity to eat that hot sauce. Coach, I'm telling you, Coach J.
When you wake up in the middle of the night, is your bald spot sweating? That's hot sauce.
She can adjust it one way or the other.
Yeah.
She's the best I've ever had. It's,
by far.
It's wonderful.
Well, there's nothing like good hot sauce. It's not necessarily, the chips and the stuff that goes with it aren't good for the belly, but hot sauce is
You can lie to yourself a little bit and say you're getting your vegetables.
Yeah. Well, I've always believed if you drink a Diet Coke with that kind of stuff, it evens out and cancels, that kind of stuff. But speaking of celebrating, Labor Day weekend coming up, Rudy brought us some nice looking ribs. Why don't you show us one, Rudy?
Yeah, man. This is I did some baby backs ribs for tonight, and I don't know that they'll be kind of drippy, but they're pretty juicy.
Got some paper towel somewhere.
And good baby back rib there.
Nice.
Go wrong with the frankadillas.
Oh yeah. Now there is a difference between barbecuing and grilling. Quesadillas, frankadillas. I like to call them frankadillas because they're quesadillas made by a guy named Frank. That's grilling, and it's all about temperature. How'd you do those ribs?
I know you're gonna disrespect me on this, but that was done on a pellet grill. Don't have as much time on my hand as you do to pull out the stick burner, but for in a bind, those pellet grills do a really good job.
Yeah, if you don't have time, to light a fire, don't light one. Checking the temperature is a big deal.
That's the biggest thing. I think anything to cook on internal temperatures is the way to go. And I know Coach Belcher is a barbecue guy too. At the same time I was out there, you barbecued that night. It was good barbecue. What kind of pushed you to that? I know one of your specialties is beef jerky.
Yeah, I really like our jerky recipe, and we do some different things with that. But the brisket, as far as smoking, is what I kind of concentrate my efforts on. And my father-in-law actually taught me everything about that. And I've got a smoker that my brother-in-law built me for my birthday years ago. And
so it's a stick burner.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm a mesquite guy, and I don't have a thermometer on it or anything like that. I've got a place on the far end away from the firebox that I touch. If I set my hand on it, I know what temperature I'm working at. And,
that's old school.
And we're about, spend about 13 hours on the brisket, and we really like it. And so that's what we do with the jerky deal. We found probably the key is for us is we like to use cube steak that's been tenderized, and then we got a special recipe for our spices, and and we really like it. So.
Yeah, I really like it too. He does make a really good jerky. I had opportunity again to eat some of that. Man, that's really good and all. And I have a stick burner too. Same thing. You don't have a temperature gauge. I just got to put my hand on it. If I can set it on there for about a second, I know I'm about right. If I can't put it on there, it's too hot.
I think all mine have temperature gauges.
I
don't trust them, but I've got them on everything.
Yeah, I have a temperature gauge on mine, but it's always at 0. So,
but it's funny that you talk about your father-in-law. It's kind of how I got to learn how to cook. When I was in college, I was out of money, and I called my dad and said, "Dad, I'm broke." And he said, "Well, maybe you should ask for a raise at work, or talk to the VA people, from the service, see if they can help you out." I said, "Well, I wasn't in the service, Dad, and I don't think I'm getting a raise at work." And he said, "Well, maybe you should join the Navy or something." So I couldn't afford to take any girls out to eat. And, so the best way, my best date night was I'd find some ribs on sale, and I'd bring them over, and we'd eat ribs in the back of the pickup. I had a little cheap smoker, and that was the way to go.
Yeah. Barbecue does wonders.
It's this quesadilla, francadilla. I've done it with cube steak. I've done it. I really like flank steak and skirt steak, but they've gotten so daggum high. Tonight I use a beef clot, and I shaved it with my beef trimmer, and then I beat it like a rented mule. And it's funny, talking about tenderizing. I saw your mom out there beating some goat off y'all's hay the other day with the broom. They worked y'all's goat, so I thought the same thing. I could beat that daggum meat like the Belcher mom with the broom on a wild goat out there eating her hay. So that came out good.
I tell you, both my parents can swing a weapon. I've been part and parcel of that.
Yeah.
I understand that, but that's a big deal with the tenderizing on the jerky. Is it just makes it, you don't pull the tooth out, and you get my age, you got to be careful with those sort of things.
Yeah.
My father-in-law is Greg Bagley, and he cooked for all sorts of things, rodeos and big get-togethers, where he's cooking 200 or 300 steaks a night, and he's been around it for years and years and years. And he's a really good guy to go to on that kind of stuff. And he kind of taught me that as far as the brisket was concerned.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned a little bit of that last week. How barbecue is a learning. You always learn from somebody, and you get your ideas from somebody else, and then you try to start tweaking it a little bit to your liking. And that's the thing about barbecue. People's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, do you like it? Does your family like it? Because if they do, then you got great barbecue. I mean, it doesn't have to please everybody. That's what's best about barbecue. If you like it, cook it.
Daggum right. And to me, you just can't beat good barbecue on the weekend. It's just part of life. Labor Day weekend, I don't have to work for the first time since like 1986. Pretty excited about it. That smoker's going to be gold. And usually I do ribs on Labor Day, so I guess ribs are coming up.
Ribs are coming up, yeah. So if we're still kind of on the barbecue side of this show before we get to the football, but both of you guys were talking. So you said 13 hours. What temperature are you cooking your brisket at?
Whatever my hand can stand. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming around 350, and somewhere in there 3 to 350. I don't know.
Oh, we got a little static.
Got
here.
a little feedback. There we go.
And one thing I'm really careful about is I turn it regularly, and when I call it searing. I don't know what everybody calls it. I don't know if the jargon or anything, but I go for about 2.5 to 3 hours depending on the size of the brisket. But I turn it constantly because you're going to be hot on one end, and then once I wrap it, I put a couple of beverages of my choice in there, and to keep it moist and fat side up and all the things everybody does. And
Do you spritz it when you?
I don't do any. I just use beverages, and then I don't do any rub or anything like that. And then I'll turn it on a regular basis. I keep my timer on and just feel with my hand, and then I always listen to it. If I got a little bit of bubble in there, it'll move when I shake it. And I'm good. I just don't want to burn it. I don't want to dry it out.
And that's a big debate when you're talking about brisket. Fat side up, fat side down.
I do fat side up because it'll render that fat through the meat, and I think that just a flavor.
So many different ways of
bonanza.
Because I think that I don't know if there's a difference or not. You guys probably know more than I do about it, but because then, I always did fat side down because I was always afraid. Well, if I burn anything, I'm burning fat. I'm not burning the meat. And then I'm like, well, when I cook a steak, the juices come out the top of the steak, and so I'm like, well, maybe the juices I don't know. I think it goes back to if you like it.
And that's the way I was
That's
taught.
the way to do it.
That's the way I was taught.
That's right.
That's the way I was
Works
taught.
for us. So the fat's on top, and it renders down
It makes
through
sense.
there. And
Yeah, it makes sense.
I put a pan underneath my brisket to catch that fat, and then we separate the hard fat from the liquid fat, and then
You have a little au jus.
daggum right, it's good. Oh man,
Yeah, you can almost drink that stuff.
Going the temperature, I'll cook 250 to 275, depending on the brisket. The cheaper the brisket, the cooler the temperature.
Mhm.
Try to tender it up. If I buy a select,
Yeah.
to make chopped beef out of, I'm going to cook at a lower temperature for a longer time, and it tends to come out better. If I'm doing a prime, I can go a little hotter.
I'd be lying if I told you what the temperature was, because all I know is what it feels
What your
like on
hand
my
is.
hand.
Yeah,
So I don't have the
Well,
thermometer.
and I look at color a bunch too. I look at the color, and I've got a couple of probes. I'll look at the internal temperature before I wrap them.
I am a spritzer, but I spritz with parquet butter, the spray butter, the little blue butter, and that's what I spritz my with on the brisket.
If you're not clogging the artery, you're really not eating.
Are
Yeah.
you even trying? If you're not clogging the artery.
You're right.
And what do y'all do for sides? Your brisket.
I've got some pinto beans going right now that are pretty damn tasty. It depends on who I'm cooking for. I make a really good queso macaroni. My wife loves my potato salad. My kids don't. They don't like potato salad at all. Doesn't matter whose it is. But those are generally potato salad and beans are always a good combination. Sometimes I'll fry corn. Fried corn's good with it too.
I'm a big potato salad bean guy. I really like beans. Learned the recipe from beans from my dad, and he always had great beans. It seemed like we always had a pot of beans on the weekend, and we'd eat them all week. So, what about you?
We're beans for sure, but my wife makes them. JJ, she's got that down too. And Coach Kennedy over at he's with us a while back, and he'll tell you he'll travel 40 miles to eat JJ's beans, and then I do.
Well, there's nothing like a good side chick.
And then that's right. She's pretty good. And then I do potatoes. We do 10 pounds at a time, and we run them through what we call a French fry press with an arm, and we cut them up, and then we'll go 10 pounds of that, a pound of bacon, and 4 sticks of butter, a whole onion, and then a can of jalapeno peppers, pickled jalapenos, and we layer it, and then we put a couple of beverages in there just to keep everything moist, and we'll cook that for 3.5 to 4 hours.
Put that on your smoker.
And on the smoker while we're cooking, and man, it is
That's
wonderful.
great.
And
That does sound good.
we really, I mean, that is and that's another thing you can eat, the rest of the week, and we'll pile it on. Like put the brisket in a bowl the next day with brisket beans and kind of like that KFC bowl, I guess, with simple brisket.
You
Our
can
potatoes.
do so much with leftover brisket.
Oh, it's wonderful.
You sound like Bubba from Forrest Gump, and you have sliced brisket, you can have brisket sandwich,
Walking tacos, you got everything.
brisket taco, brisket quesadilla. I mean, you can go on forever.
Yeah.
Brisket, man.
For sure.
The only thing wrong with brisket right now is you got to get a mortgage to buy one.
It's bad.
They're high.
It's crazy to think too, because that used to be the cheapest meat because nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Now everybody's doing it.
Well, skirt steak was the same way with throwaway meat. Nobody wanted it. Get it for nothing at the grocery store. Now it's $12 a pound or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. All right, moving on to football. Go back to Windthorst. Woo! Great win. Great win.
Yeah, I've got to ask you. I mean, first play of the game, you got a freshman quarterback, happens to be your son. So you're the offense coordinator and making a call, correct? And so first play of the game, we're going deep. That's pretty good confidence in not only your quarterback, but the guy you're throwing to. You said it's pretty good.
And we thought that the retire deal. We saw something on film that we really liked, and if we got him in this look, we had to check if it didn't look like we wanted. And we got a really smart group of kids right now that helps a bunch because we can get ourselves out of a bind if we're in it. And we got just what we were looking for and what we'd seen, and came out in a formation we hadn't used in either scrimmage, so maybe they didn't have an adjustment to it just yet, and because they do a great job over there, because they didn't give us the same look later in the ball game, but we had the look we wanted, and knew we had the right players in the right spot, and turned it loose, and it worked out. So.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to start a career. Freshman quarterback and a 60-something plus yard touchdown pass, 1 for 1 with a touchdown for 60 plus yards. I mean, that's a great start.
That's better than I think my career passing record. I had none, so I don't know. But it's a great way to start the season too. You score on your first play from scrimmage.
It's fun. I think it's my 28th or 9th year, and we scored on the first play of both halves, and I don't know that we've ever done that.
Oh, I didn't realize the second half you scored on the first play.
We received the opening kick of the second half, and we scored on the first play there, and that was, I mean, I don't know, I can't remember ever doing it before.
That was always one of our team goals, and it didn't happen very often. You score on the first possession of the game, and you score on the third possession of the game, or third quarter first possession. And
it's a big momentum getter, if you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And y'all were in a dogfight. You said, you got down and young kids. I mean, you got quite a few young kids on that team, and coming back to win that game is not only just character builder, but also good for those young kids.
Right, and they've grown so much. The returners are so much better than they were. They spent the spring and summer working, and they've just gotten better and better. And it's just the confidence level is high. It's not to the point to be a problem. You don't ever want to start drinking the Kool-Aid on things, and we've got a long way to go. But they're playing. They played really well as a team, and it felt like even when we got down late, there was no panic, and which we might have seen in the past a little bit, and there was just no panic button hit, and they kept after it, kept punching, and things worked out.
You got an open week this week. Who do y'all got the following week?
Munster. They're always good.
They're always a test.
That group of guys down there does a great job, and they're the same kind of kids that we've got. Yeah. A lot of them are kin to each other, and it's hard-nosed kids that you don't have to coach a lot of effort. You get in there and you get to coach the game, and their coaches know how to do it, and they're really good.
That's what I've always liked about you guys out there. Coach Tackett, you guys always non-district schedules. It's never gimmies. You guys go out and you prepare yourself to play. You play these bigger schools. You play the really good schools around the area, and get yourselves get ready for. You guys know you're always going to be in the playoff run, and chances are pretty good that you're going to do that. And I always seem like you guys always play a tough schedule to have your kids ready.
Well, the big deal for us is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you can stay healthy is the deal, and football is the big deal for us. And when we won it a couple years ago, the big deal for us is we had a dominant offensive defensive line, and we had all 5 offensive linemen healthy all 16 games, and we're pretty physical. So that never happens, and that's what you pray for with this deal. We're going to play good teams, and if we're playing our best ball in August and September, we're probably not going to do very well. So we try to take that brick by brick mentality, and our kids buy into it. And if we can survive these things early, got your static again?
Yeah, there we go.
If you can survive this push before district, then hopefully things are going well in November and December.
Well, it's a long football season. It's hard not to get beat up.
It is. And it doesn't take much to do it. It can be something outside of football. A kid wake up and be sick, or
you just never know.
Twist his ankle playing a pickup game of basketball. You don't ever know. So
I hear COVID's coming back.
Well, we dealt. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but we dealt with it last time about as well as you can do it, and it's just ridiculous what people did to kids, and just can't get over. We had probably the best baseball team we'd had in a decade, and they got shut down. And somebody at some point is going to have to pay for that stuff, and I don't know how to make them do it, but it's ridiculous to cheat kids out of opportunities for something that doesn't hurt kids. As a rule.
You don't want my opinion. I'm a believer in you're going to die You got to live life.
Yeah. It ain't, what is it Gus says, it ain't dying I'm talking about, it's living. And,
Yeah.
and that's
One of two books I live my life by, the Holy Bible and
I finished Lonesome Dove for the third time though.
Lonesome Dove. I've got to right up there on the top shelf.
We got a signed copy because
Me too.
Mitch McLemore, who's head coach at Haskell, Larry McMurtry is his uncle.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of Mitch, he has the Stanford Bulldogs.
Right. I talked to his boy today.
His old boss this week,
Yeah.
so it'll be a.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Hutch today as well, and those two are like best friends, and that both of them are like, man, we hate playing against each other, but we love it at the same time type situation, and they pull for each other every week except that one. But I have one question before we move on because I've always wanted to ask this question to you guys at Windthorst, and I don't know if I ever have. So I'm gonna take you back to the state championship game. So y'all were kicking the extra point and you miss it, right? And there was a penalty on marked. How long did it take to decide to go for two?
It was already done before it happened. And what we had was Coach Cavazos actually saw something on film. I do the PAT team, and they had always rushed. Number one was a super fast kid, and they'd always rushed him from our left on film, every film we had. And so it looked like we iced our own kicker, right? We called the timeout first. It's because they put him to our right. And so I called timeout, and before we knew what had happened, I said, we got to change this. And so we made a little shuffle there to fix that. And then they came out and called timeout to ice us. And then what we felt like at that point, the way we were playing and the look on their kid's face, that we were not afraid to go to overtime. We thought we were going to win it. And then we missed the extra point. But the other thing we saw on film was if we were loud, we do a shift on our extra points. And if we were crisp, that they got a little amped up, and we hadn't done it all night the way we did it then. And you can see us in the huddle on the film talking to them like, hey, we got to be crisp here, and we'll get them. And once we got them, not thinking we were going to miss. We didn't think that was going to happen.
Right.
But we felt like one way or the other we were going to get them off sides. And the guy we thought was going to jump didn't, and two other guys did, but we got them. But once we had that, it was already, because there was discussion before that, like, we've got them, we can do this four-wheeler deal that we call it four-wheeler, and we're gonna score. But we just had zero fear of overtime at that point. We knew we were gonna win, and there was great confidence in Coach Tackett and everybody, and the kids. They were so good and so businesslike, and they loved each other so much. And we weren't leaving there without winning that thing. So
yeah, it was a great moment. You guys are full of trick plays. I know that those skip passes got me twice. We work on it. We worked on it every year, and then the second year y'all ran it to my sideline. I just looked over.
I had to do it to your sideline because that's the only way you could enjoy it as much.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I'm like, as soon as that happened, the kid looked at me and he said, "Coach, that's the play you were talking about." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the play I was talking about." Yeah, you guys did a great job over there.
Yeah. It was a great win, and I'm sure y'all like to do it again, maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's the only thing better than steak dinners, multiple steak dinners.
That's right.
We'd love to.
Well,
you go to some matchups.
Go up to some matchups. The 0-1 Decatur Eagles, Ryder versus Ryder 1-0.
Man, I tell you what, very impressed with the Castles kid at quarterback. I went and watched that game this past week, the Ryder Ojai game. By the way, what a magnificent atmosphere to see that many people support those two programs and their last time to meet each other as Ryder and Ojai. But great atmosphere. But I'm telling you, the Castle kid's a real deal. He's making checks. He's throwing the ball. I knew he was pretty good, but as a sophomore, he's pretty good. He stands about 6'6", I think.
We got to face him last year in district, and then seeing him this summer, we'd seen him at some camps, mutual camps we're at, and he throws the ball really well. But I saw one highlight of him the other night, and if you watch him, he works front side. He's working the right side of the field, and he checks all the way back down. So he's on his third or fourth guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he delivers it on the money. So that's good stuff,
Yeah.
And if you can do that sort of thing at the high school level, you can win a lot of football games. games.
Yeah. I mean, they had a great job. They're really good up front. This is a tough matchup for them. Decatur plays good football. I think last year Decatur had a big lead, and Ryder came back in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game in Decatur. I mean, last minute they were down like multiple touchdowns. So this isn't a gimme when you look at classifications and things like that. Decatur
got beat by Anna, state-ranked team.
Yeah, top 5.
And it was a close ball game, if I remember right. So
I believe so. So that's going to be a dandy. I like the Raiders in it just because I think the depth and things that they have on their team
and at home.
And at home, and their running backs are pretty good. There's some big kids. They run hard. But that front is massive, and that was the difference in the old high game.
The only thing, the biggest thing I'd be worried about as a coach over there would be that game last week was built up so much. I wouldn't want the emotional letdown of week number 2. Week 1 was great. You get that win. We got to play somebody else.
Yeah, and there was just so much hype around that game. That first week game, and the crowd was like humongous. There's no way that crowd would be like that because Decatur's not going to travel that many. That was on the other side.
You're not going to sell out every week.
No, but yeah, I like the Raiders.
Let's pick the hometown team.
That's
there
right.
We go. Wichita Falls High, Hereford. At Hereford. That's a long bus ride.
Man, do you have any long trips like that?
We're going to Wheeler this year.
Oh, that's
That's pretty close.
Pretty good call.
That's about 2 hours and 40 minutes from Wichita Falls. I call on those guys out there. So, that's going to be a good haul.
We played at Canadian a few years back, quite a few now. But we went up to Canadian, I think it was 06. We went up to Canadian for their homecoming on Saturday. It was wonderful situation. People up there are just great. And they're, it's a winning program, storied program, and the people are just wonderful, and it's a great atmosphere. And then the next year, and we won on their homecoming, which was wonderful. And the next year, they came to our homecoming. We put ours on a Saturday for the only time since I've been at Windthorst. They came down, wonderful atmosphere, everything, and they beat us. So it was, but that was the longest trip, probably non-playoff trip.
As a coach, all 3 of us understand. I mean, it's just different when you go on a long road trip. It's a little worrisome, because
you're off your schedule.
Yeah, it's off. The schedule's off and everything.
It's a long ways to Hereford, no matter how you slice it. Hereford's coach is Coach Marion is. I coached him 30 years ago in Plainview. I was young, and I keep thinking of it the way he would look in high school. Hell, he's in his late 40s now. So, that'll be a good game. Old High's looking to rebound. They've got a couple of skilled kids that go deep anytime they want to.
Yeah, and I just don't. I'm not going to take anything from that Ryder game off about them just because I think Ryder's is the real deal, and that just got Old High better. Yeah. They're not going to face a front probably like Ryder's front for a while. So I'm going to take the Coyotes on the road against the Big Herd or whatever they go by out there.
I'll second.
Hey, the White Faces.
White Faces. There you go.
Yeah, the wind's out the wrong direction. You know why they're the White Faces. I promise you. But yeah, we'll pick Old High. Hershey 1-0. They beat Clint Lions last week in Midland or Andrews, somewhere neutral site game, playing the Brock Eagles. That's a little bit tougher than Clint, I would reckon.
Yeah, I believe so. And again, I think Brock came last year, came out of non-district the first 3 or 4 games over.
Their schedule's a beast.
Yeah,
they're 0-1.
That's a crazy. Who did they play first round? Or first game?
I saw it.
It was somebody.
Texarkana.
Yeah, Pleasant Grove.
Hey, we got Pleasant Grove.
Yeah.
Slot T.
Yeah. So you go play those guys. Those guys always have a handful of Division I athletes, and then back it up and play in Hershey. So Brock's a tough place to play.
As talented as Hershey is, for a while that may be Brock's easiest game. And I'm not slighting Hershey. Their non-district schedule is brutal.
I think
if I remember right, it came down to the end of the game last year.
We kind of, that was a week 2 game because that's our off week. I think we ended up at that game last year, watching a little bit of it. It was a really good ball game.
Hershey's young, but they're explosive. Could be another great one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I'm definitely pulling for Hershey in that one. I like those guys over there. They do a good job. They got their hands full, and they're going to learn a lot about themselves one way or the other. If they can pull out a win at Brock, that's going to be a big feather in their hat.
That game definitely make you a better football team. Just playing Brock, will make you a better football team. Win, lose, or draw. You play that thing right, you become a better football team. Because you know Brock is probably going to be playing for a long time in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. You know, they lose in the state championship game last year, and they picked to go back in their division. But man, I hope Hershey can go pull up upset up there.
I bet they can. I like old Coach Johnson. He's a good dude. Crum at Burke Burnett. Bulldogs are 1-0.
Yeah, and I don't know how long it's been since they've been 2-0, but I'm gonna take them.
I am telling you. I think the Bulldogs are going to start 2-0. I don't know much about Crum. They're 0-1.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. I know Burke's young, and so they got some experience this past weekend at Bridgeport. So
Crum has struggled the last couple of years. I don't know whose headphones are echoing.
But yeah, I'm gonna take the Bulldogs. I like them in that game.
All right, another big game. Graham Steers. Springtown's going to Graham.
Yeah, Coach Hewlett, used to be in our district when he was at Eastland, and Graham. I think I was at Graham today, and I think they said they've lost to Springtown the last 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, and which surprised me. I think Springtown won 3 or 4 games last year, but one of them was against Graham. But Graham's returning everybody, and I think Springtown lost some kids. So I think the Steers have a good group this year. I know they're junior heavy, but I think they got too many weapons. Defensively, their defensive backs really fly around and will come up and hit you. Very talented there in the back.
Who did they beat last week? I saw some clips. I'm drawing blank. Bowie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bowie's on the rebuild a little bit, but boy, Graham looked good in the clips I saw of that game.
Yeah, I watched some scrimmage and I was impressed with it.
All right, moving on. Vernon at Gainesville. Slot T team, you were talking about it. 1-0, Vernon at Gainesville. Gainesville's 1-0.
Yeah, I don't know much about Gainesville.
I don't either. We watched Vernon scrimmage Henrietta, and they got some athletes running around over there, and that coach does a good job. He's got them. His son, I believe, is quarterback. Yeah. He runs that thing really well. Yeah. So, but I'm gonna shy away from picking anything since I'm still coaching. They look like they knew what they were doing when we watched.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I want these people to buy my barbecue.
I'll be real careful.
But Vernon beat the old Mustangs there at City View. Broke my heart a little bit there, but heard it was a really good game. City View had some opportunities in that game, and down in the goal line, they fumbled on the 1, threw an interception at the 3, 2 times going in and score. But that run game's tough. I mean, they got some backs back there at Vernon, and they don't need a big hole. When they get one, they're gone.
Third year to put it on, and when you don't see a slot team very often, it's hard to simulate. You can't, you run your scout team, they can't do it like the team you're about to play. And I've got to give Vernon the edge.
Yeah, I'm giving Vernon the edge too. I think they might have a few more athletes in Gainesville.
Owl Park on the road at Benbrook.
Benbrook led by Cody Slater. He used to be the head coach at Hershey, and he's an Alney grad, and so I know they got a really good running back back there. I know I talked to Swinson. He said last year he was hurt, and they didn't have to worry about him. So, but he's pretty worried about that guy, that running back at Benbrook. So it ought to be an interesting game. I think this is a tomorrow night game. I think it might be the only Thursday night game on the slate.
7:00.
Wish that was an Owl Park.
I do too. Yeah. Oh, wait a second. I'm working tomorrow night. I'm coming.
I think that's yours.
I think that one's mine. I turned my head wrong. There we go. Hawks going to try to rebound. See if I know they got a couple of kids banged up the other night. Maybe they'll be ready to go. But it'll be tougher on the road at Benbrook. Bridgeport at Bowie. Both teams 0-1.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. I think this is a game that both of them probably are going in feeling like they have a good chance of winning this game. Coach, do you know anything about?
I've seen a little bit. I know Tyler Price over there at Bowie, and I know that he's done a really good job of hiring the staff. And they're young and they're energetic, and just listen to their kids. They're buying in, and I don't know how long it'll take to get that movement going, but once it does, he's going to do well.
Yeah, I thought he hired a great staff.
Yeah, he's a Dylan Stark protege, and I don't know, Dylan Stark's about as good a guy as you could ever meet, and good a coach.
That's right.
He's our offensive line coach. If that kid's anything like what he's been taught, then Coach Price, then they're going to do well. He got some good coaches put together. I know that.
Yeah, he did. He did a really good job, and I told him that when I talked to him. I said, "Man, you've done a really good job hiring. That's tough as a first year guy.
It's getting harder and harder.
Well, and the schedule they got is unbelievably tough, and they came off a rough year. It's hard to talk people into coming. It says a lot about who you are as a coach if you can get people to take a chance with you.
He's a Bowie grad and done a great job, an unbelievable job with the baseball program out there at Bowie. And I know that was going to be hard for him to kind of give those reins over, but he hired really well there.
Yeah, coaches can coach, and I mean, you're good coaches. It doesn't matter what sport they are; they're going to try to find a way and do that sort of thing. They're a lot of times they're your best teachers in the classroom because they're competitive. They want to win.
Right.
They want to win everywhere they are, and Price reminds me of that kind of guy. So.
Well, and I think either team, whichever team, could get some confidence in that game early, could have a great chance to win. Both teams coming off some bad years, and if they get a little confidence to get things rolling, they can win that ball game.
Winning begets winning. So.
Yep, it sure does. All right, another big matchup here in Holiday, Texas. Jim Ned Indians at the Holiday Eagles, 1-0 versus 1-0.
Holiday on the new turf?
Holiday, yep. That's what. Well, I hadn't drove by it this week. I think it's done. Last I heard, they're planning on playing. It'll be a great game.
Yeah, I think Jim Ned's picked maybe to win that district out there with Vernon and Owl Park and those guys, and I think you guys beat Jim Ned last year.
We caught them right last year. We beat them pretty good, but I kind of think this Jim Ned team may be a little bit better than the team we caught last year. A lot of kids back off that team. And
I was curious about that, how many they had back.
Quite a few. I got to see Holiday last week, and Holiday's defensive front, I thought, did an outstanding job against the Owl Park team. Really impressive the way they dominated the line of scrimmage. I think their linebackers both had 16 tackles apiece. And, this is going to sound right. I didn't watch the film, so I don't know. I don't think the Holiday secondary was that big of a factor because the defensive front harassed Owl Park's quarterback so much, he really didn't have a chance to throw many balls. So, assuming that they can harass the Jim Ned quarterback, that'll be a plus. In the third quarter of that game, you can see Holiday's offense starting to click. They had a really impressive drive. Of course, they had a couple of big plays, but their third quarter drive right off the bat was really impressive. They just methodically moved the ball down the field. And, going back to the learning curve, how fast can those kids pick up this spread stuff? But first game, I thought they had good reviews. And,
Yeah, and that's going to be something they just continue to get better at. I know we talked about that back in the day. We went towards the City View, and we were both, bone, triple option type stuff. And I remember playing a game in Windthorst. I think we played it in about an hour and 15 minutes.
It didn't take long.
Yeah.
And we kind of both went to spread about the same time. And I remember us both talking about, it's just going to take time, It's going to take
I just
a little
remember
time.
that it seemed to us that with the under center stuff that we did, the flex bone stuff, and we still do some flex bone things out of the gun, it was just that if you were not just dominant on the front, they could mess up every read you had just by pressure. And it changed everything. And then we had a group of kids go along that were built for the more wide open type stuff. And I will say this about Jim Ned, and I don't know much about either team, but one of my favorite stories about them was they watched our state championship game in 2020 where we go for 2 to win the ball game. And we played on Wednesday night, they played on Thursday. And that coach said that he watched us do that, and they made a decision that night if they were in position to go for 2. They were going to go for 2 to win the ball game without any question. And they attacked that kid that's in Texas now on the 2-point conversion, which is so
crazy.
I think if it's a close game, he ain't going to hold back. He's going to he's going to do what it takes. And that takes guts because, you got everything riding on one play. And those kind of guys, those kind of coaches are dangerous. If you're in a close ball game.
I always thought the most improvement teams ever have between, and I heard this a long time ago, was between the first ball game and the second ball game of the year. And so, ought to be a great one.
You know, Jim Ned, home of Colt McCoy.
Cool.
Colt McCoy. And
Saw him play against Jacksonville a long time ago. My little brother was coaching there. And, I went to watch them play. I think it's Stephenville. Colt was a sophomore or something like that. But
He was dang good.
Yeah, heck, you know, he's a great basketball player too. Texas wanted him to enroll early, and he didn't. He stayed at Jim Ned to finish because he was starter on the basketball team that made the state tournament. And he was, you know, team first kind of guy. So. But he was pretty good dude. You know, he wasn't bad.
They had a tall receiver that he could throw to that could just run like the wind. That was a heck of a basketball player. You know, Colt was a good hurdler too. He come over to the Lone Wolf Relays in Colorado City and ran the hurdles. Speaking of Jacksboro, they're at Boyd. You know anybody over at Jacksboro?
I've heard a few of those people. You know, that's where I started my career a long, long time ago. But I know a few of the cats over there right now.
They're 1-0. Boyd took it on the chin last week, 0-1.
I think Boyd's gonna have a hard time with this group that Jacksboro's got together right now.
I tell you what, I talked to Coach Hubble last year after they beat us in the playoffs, and I said, man, you guys are going to be dangerous next year. Is that your nephew?
That's my nephew. That's my
Nephew,
younger
quarterback.
brother's son, Landon, and we
Man.
call him Lando, and he's pretty talented.
He's very talented, keeps plays moving, keeps plays alive, and got a great
He's
arm.
a good athlete, good
Yes.
baseball player, good basketball player.
I don't know where these Belcher kids, y'all I know why. Y'all married well.
Well, I tell people all the time, because a lot of people, both my sons are taller than me, which is not hard to do. I'm extremely short. But Ed Orgeron down at LSU, one of my favorite stories, we were down in the camp down there. He comes up and asks which one is mine. At that time, it was Cy. And Cy's about 6'1", so, and he goes, well, he's tall. And I go, well, I grew up on a ranch. I knew how to cross animals. He punched me in the chest and started laughing. I lost my breath, but it was you know, growing up on a ranch, you have to pay attention to those sorts of things, and so
Well,
we
there's
did.
not
Yeah, you did well.
not much else to do.
I know you got to focus. Hey, what's your long-term goal here? And but all three of us have done well. You know, Jeff's boys and his daughter Hannah are great, and then Blake's got twin girls, and they're great. And it's just we've been really, really blessed as a family for our kids.
Well, the Belcher name's been around this Archer County and everywhere for a long, long time, and you guys were always good, and it just keeps on trucking with the Belcher name.
They've overcome us, I guess. They overcome their fathers.
I agree with that.
A lot of people do.
Frederick at City View.
Man, this is gonna be a tough one. You know, those guys beat us at their place last year, and this series has been going on for a while.
Both team 0-1.
Yeah, Frederick's always won at Frederick, and we've always won at City View. So I hope that continues for the Mustangs and those guys out there. And both teams graduated some guys up front, and but both of them still got a lot of skills. So I think this is gonna be a good one, man. If you ain't got nothing to do on a Friday, you will see some fireworks. I think there's gonna be some fireworks. Frederick's got a really, really good running back that we didn't see last year.
They bring that airplane on the road.
They did 2 years ago.
That's what I'd like to drive that thing around. That'd be fun.
What's the atmosphere like in the Bomber Bowl? It sure looks good.
Man, the Bomber Bowl is great, man. That's the one reason I always put them on the schedule. Not only Coach Tyler and I go back to my 6-man days, so I've known Coach Tyler for a long time. When he was at Valley, you know, he's a guy that's in the 6-man coaching Hall of Fame, and he's done a great job at that rank, and has just continued to get Frederick better and better. But man, it's an awesome experience. You know, you never see their players before the game. They warm up at their school. They have a tradition where they ride a bus. They got a bunch of Harleys that lead the bus through town, and people are all around town. And so you never see them, and then all of a sudden you just start hearing the Top Gun theme song going on. Dun, 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 dun. And then
We need some background.
yeah, there you go. I come up with that.
You have to get a producer.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that. But so you hear that, and then you hear the sirens, and you hear the Harleys, and they got this little airplane cart that they drive, and he drives out front, and all their fans are lined up, and they just come running out, and then they change it to the Danger Zone song as they're running out. They have a bomber every now and then. You'll catch on game an actual bomber from the base flies over, and it's great, man. It's a crazy time. At the end of the third quarter, the lights are flashing. They turn the lights off. They got a light show at third quarter. They're playing jump around the entire town of Fredericksburg. They're all jumping up and down. Your fans are like, all right, so they start jumping up and down. Our kids are throwing water bottles everywhere, and but it is something. It is a sight to see if you're a coach and you're ever off.
And
Frederick's playing. It is a sight to see. Get there early though and watch it. But the downfall of that place, it is hot. It is hot there in the Bomber Bowl, and their facilities that they dress you in is even hotter than it is outside. So if you ever play there, don't go early. Go late.
All right, moving on. Millsap 1-0 at Henrietta 0-1.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pick Coach Johnson to win.
I'm gonna pick Coach Johnson to win as well.
Again, I'm gonna stay out of this, but
Can't go wrong with the Johnson.
I think they know what they're doing over there at Henrietta.
That's a Johnson.
That'll be a tough out.
Yeah, Coach Jake Johnson at Millsap and Coach Johnson at
Henrietta.
And I know you're just gonna go with Coach Johnson.
I
Why
am.
not? Right?
Millsap kids are going to be strong. I haven't seen them, but I promise you they're going to be strong kids.
They are going to be strong. I mean, they got the biggest coaching staff in around. I always made a joke on to our coaching staff. I said, if any of you guys pop off to the Millsap coaches and we're playing them, you're on your own because I'm running out the back door.
You know, Jake, one time, my second son is named Jake, and I sent him a text message inviting him home. We were going to have ribs. I said, ribs this weekend, you want to come up? And Coach Johnson got the message. I'll be there.
And talk about a great guy.
Yeah.
Both of these guys are really good dudes. Both of them do a really good job with their teams.
Henrietta home opener may make a difference.
If the Trojans didn't beat them up too bad.
I don't think
they come out pretty healthy.
I think so.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything that looked like any sort of.
A little bit of a renewal of a rivalry. I think Millsap was in our district for a while, and so Henrietta's played Millsap several times in a row. So that ought to be a great game.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Those are two good dudes, man. I can't even take a choice between those two.
Yeah. Speaking of Nocona Indians versus the Quanah Indians, I'm picking the Indians.
You're taking the Indians?
I got the Indians right now. 1-0 versus 0-1.
Yep. Coach Jackson, like I said last week, that's one of my ex-players. I coached him when he was at Quanah, so he's back home coaching, and he does a great job and out there with those guys. I think he just might be a little outmatched this weekend with Nocona. I think Coach Krutzinger has flipped that program around and got those guys believing in what they're doing and moving right along.
One of the best grass fields in North Texas. The Quanah field is nice. It's always well manicured and nice tip from you.
Yep, they do a good job out there. It's always been like that. The only thing I always thought about was there was a pretty good crown on that field. I know both of you guys played there, but that crown, I remember when we were coaching there, I always like, well, let's run to the downhill side. But we're running a little faster.
It makes a difference if you're throwing the ball and your quarterback's 3 foot taller than he normally is to a receiver.
It's a big deal on your edge passes,
yeah.
Especially quick game type stuff. And you've got to find that. And the old Dallas Cowboy Stadium you've got one sideline, you look over there and you can see people from about chest up.
That's kind of like Millsap.
Kentucky used to be like that.
Yeah.
Millsap,
Callisburg. You've got to pay attention to those crown fields.
Millsap, Callisburg, both of those grass fields got huge crowns. I remember just being over there and I'm like, I can hardly even see my receiver on the far side. I just see like a helmet. It's just kind of different feel.
Petrolia Pirates 0-1 at Albany Cubs 0-1. Albany lost a close one.
Yeah, they did, and
extra point.
Man,
or 2 extra points. You're right down to 13-12
against Alvord, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Petrolia lost at 1 point or 2, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
I think to Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that score. Are those guys any of those in y'all's district?
Petrolia is, and then who are they? They are. Sacred Heart is, they're a private school, and they're pretty good. They were, I think, in prep had them favored by a lot, and it was a 1 point game.
Yeah, they always do a good job at Sacred Heart, and like we talked last week, Coach West does a great job there, and
Albany's Division I, so they're not in our district.
Oh, I got you. I think the Beers pretty tough, so that ought to be a great game.
That'll be a great game. Good matchup over at Albany. Lindsay at Seymour. Seymour 1-0. Lindsay 1-0.
That's a good game, Coach. You probably have some interest in that. You say, you guys play Munster, not Lindsay.
No, but we scrimmaged Lindsay, and they're doing a good job. They came in there. They're running the flex bomb now, kind of a modified pistol. Like I think they visited Gunner.
Yeah, it looks like
some of that stuff on there.
Quite a bit.
It's hard to be Gunner, but if you don't play assignment football against guys like that, you get yourself in a bind. And we went into that scrimmage. We're just working kind of on us and Henrietta, and if you don't spend some time on the flex bomb, you can get yourself eat up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And they carved us a little bit, and on defense, their kids are flying around. So as far as I know, I think Lindsay's going to put on a good show. I don't know, how it comes out.
Who Seymour play last week?
Anson last week.
Anson.
Yeah.
Okay.
They beat them up pretty good. Yeah.
So that's an interesting matchup to me.
Seymour's talented. And another good, I think, great coaching staff. I think Coach Lloyd. And he's high energy, and I love him. And he's fun to be around, and doesn't make you tired.
Yeah, we talked about that last week in the show. We talked about his energy level, where he's always 150 miles an hour and does a good job out there. But just kind of talking a little bit, with the young quarterback scenario. We have a lot of really good young quarterback scenario right now.
And I don't know how many people know it, but Coach Lloyd was a Division I quarterback coming out of California. He went to Arizona.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's stud, and he was out in Arizona whenever. What's the guy who played for the Patriots? They had the Desert Storm defense out there in Arizona. He was out there. Tim Bruschi, I think.
Yeah.
Played with him, and so his boy's got a lot of good DNA in him. And then Coach Williams over there, who is their offensive coordinator, is one of ours. He started at Windthorst, and they just do a really good job. They're fun to be around. I hate playing them because they're going to get after you for 4 quarters, and we like them. That's hard. It's that dichotomy of playing. You don't know how to feel.
We kind of talked. I talked about that last week. I had the opportunity to coach against him, and you guys were in the Oil Bowl a few years ago, and that was the first time I really got to meet Coach Lloyd, and kind of just been friends ever since. He's a very likable guy, but yeah, his kid's going to be a good one.
Yeah, he is definitely high energy. I love the towel.
Love the towel. You're moving that much, you're gonna sweat.
Yeah, he uses it. He uses it. It's not back there for decoration.
He's a good dude, man. I really like him a lot.
Archer at Anson. I'm gonna pick the hometown area. Archer County boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Archer County boys.
Archer's 1-0. Anson, of course, coming off the loss against Seymour.
Yeah, and I watched Anson play a little bit against City View in a scrimmage, and I think they're kind of rebuilding a little bit out there in Anson and coming off a tough loss. And I know how physical Seymour plays, so I know they're probably banged up a little bit too. I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing that's probably coming off. I just know every time we played teams like Windthorst and Seymour and Holidays and those type guys, we were always banged up.
Anson used to, I don't know if it's still the same way, but they used to have a high crown. It was like a cliff.
Yep. We played there when I was in Quantum, and they did. They had a tough one. It's a little bit lower now, maybe over the years. So
I always hated playing there, but that's just me. All right, Memphis at Electra. Both teams 0-1.
Yeah, I'm going to just go out there and say I think Electra is going to be a surprise team this year. I think Coach McKitty's 2 boys that are with him, that came with him from Salina, are the real deal. I think especially the senior, I think that freshman's going to be pretty good, and they got some pieces around them. They went and gave Santo all they could handle.
Was kind of a surprise to everybody, I think.
Yeah, it shocked me, and I've become friends with Coach McKitty, and I've talked to him, and they've got some good things going on out there. They got some numbers.
That's me. I don't know how.
They got some numbers out. Some kids are playing some JV stuff. I think things are rolling the right way, but I even told him, I said, man, that first one's gonna be tough. But Santo's not gonna play football, and
they're not gonna get the ball much. They're gonna keep it away from you.
Yeah, and so I thought that was a good showing, even though they're 0-1. So I like them in that matchup.
I just like Electra.
their field looks good right now. I was over there a few weeks ago, and Coach Kitty's got that field looking good as well.
Yeah, is that old school building still there? I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
usually was the administration.
I always liked the way that looked. That school building, right? I mean, I know it's across the street, but just from the stadium point, I always thought that was a cool way.
I played there since I was in Little League.
Yeah.
It's a story program. They've had a lot of success over there. And, the word on the street is they're about to get an influx of some money from the windmills and then a nitrogen plant out there towards Oakland Union. I think it's going to pour some housing into them. And so things look like they're on the upswing over there.
Yeah, and that's good. They got the new school and all, and I was talking to some local people there, and they were talking about that they would like to turn their football field the other direction and have the old school building as a backdrop. And I thought that's a great
That'd be
idea.
cool.
That would be a very cool idea
I'm
if that's feasible.
I'm a fan of north-south fields. Growing up in Iowa Park, we played on the east-west field. Holidays, east-west. Lots of. I'm not a fan of them.
Yeah.
The sun just kills me,
Right.
and the wind. It's amazing how many crosswinds you play in it. And I always thought it was an advantage for us, but because we're used to practicing in it. But I'm a north-south fields guy.
Yeah, but when I heard that, I'm like, that would be a very cool look, because I would really like the look of that building, the old school that the admin building's in now. I think that would be pretty neat.
Well, that kind of. I'm sure we missed some area teams, some six.
Yeah, we just can't get all of them. I know, my guys at the 6-man level, I didn't put those on the sheet this week, but we'll start getting a couple of those
We'll
on
get
there.
them. I'm going to go to a 6-man game this weekend. So.
All right, who you going to watch?
Santos, not the Santos. Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Can't remember who they're playing, but it'll be a good one.
Every time I hear Goldberg, I think of the wrestler.
Yeah, I do too.
So you ever watch
Bears.
wrestling, Coach?
I was not much of a wrestling fan. I apologize for that. I never turned my crank, I guess. I laughed at it a lot, but I didn't really understand it, so I didn't get into it.
When I was little, they had it at the 4-H barn over in Wichita Falls, and I loved it. I'd watch it every Saturday night.
Yeah.
When I was little, I was in the golden age of heavyweight boxing. You had Muhammad Ali and Ken Norton and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and those guys that could flat get it.
Yeah.
And I think these kids today don't understand the sweet science like we did back in the day. Those guys could box.
I watched a movie about George Foreman the other day. It was great.
Yeah, I saw that. I've been meaning to
It's
watch
worth
that.
watching.
Yeah, I boxed back in the day when I was younger for the boys club, and it really enjoyed it. But I was a little bit after you. I was more into the Sugar Ray Leonard,
And
Hearns, and all
in
those
my early
guys.
adulthood, those guys and Thomas Hearns and those guys and
Marvin Hagler.
Yeah, Marvin Hagler, and then you had Duran, those classic Sugar Ray Duran bouts and the No Moss and all that stuff. But I mean, the kids today, I just don't see very much great boxing. Like, there's no. I think everybody's scared of everything. And
Boxing's kind of lost its luster.
And it's kind of gone to the UFC.
But the UFC's wonderful too. Both my sons think Conor McGregor is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, so they talking Irish accents, and we're watching Peaky Blinders and everything else over there. So it's fun to be around. But I like fighting.
Yeah. I love the UFC. I watch a lot of the UFC and that type of stuff. And I just tell you what, those guys are built different. To think that you go in there and that's what you do for a living.
Well, a lot of those guys started in their backyards, just filming bare knuckle, getting after it. That stuff's rough, but they're talented athletes.
Yeah, I mean the training that those guys do is incredible. I mean, we used to do some of that at the school. We would do some of the hammers on tractor tires and things like that I saw on UFC, and I just thought, man, those guys are in incredible shape. They just do.
And even back in off season in the old days, we would wrestle a lot, and not formal wrestling, but we would wrestle over a towel, and we were in a circle, and whoever got the towel, it was taped up really tight, and whoever got it could beat the other kid till he got out of the circle, and people were like, oh, I can't believe y'all do that. Well, we spend all the time nowadays teaching young boys, don't push, don't shove, boys need to do that. They need to be a little bit rough around the edges, and that's the way you raise men.
We had matinees still up till I got out, but we called it the dog bone because there was always a white towel, and we always taped it in white tape. We called it the dog
every young boy should taste his own blood at some point.
Well,
It's good for him.
you know, going back to football, if you got kids that are really nice and are scared of contact, it's almost child abuse to put them out
Yeah, it doesn't bode well for anybody.
No,
Yeah.
Toughen them up in the off season, get them strong, get them fast, get them tough, go out and win football games.
It'll serve them in life really, really well.
This is what I love about this show. We don't have a script. We never know where it's going to go. Never know where it's going to go.
I never believed in the demasculization of the American male.
We call it the wussification of America.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing. We're making young men, and they're not men. We're making them into this soft, squishy, watered down version of a man. God calls us to raise boys into men, not into followers or anything else. We're here. That's what that old saying is. We're not a physical being having a spiritual experience. We're a spiritual being having a physical experience, and we're called to lead. And young men are supposed to be leaders and tough because life is tough.
Still
Very tough.
Still a big believer when my job as a dad was to raise boys that could go out on their own and make it. God didn't put me here to support them the rest of their life. So this is an empty house, just me and my wife. I'm not sure she's happy about it, but I'm proud that my kids are on their own making it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to raise good husbands and good fathers. And if you do that, the rest will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're getting closer to that empty nest. I got a sophomore in high school and a sophomore in college, and I'm just looking at 2 years down the road and it's like, man, you just hope that you've done the right thing, because when they get out of the house, I mean, it's
and you got to turn them loose. That's the other thing I think the parents today are really bad about. Not carte blanche, but overprotecting things and not letting the kid have enough rope to make a mistake. And those kids, if you are on them all the time and putting pressure on them all the time to be this, that, or the other, not giving them a little leeway, you end up having a kid that twists off at some point, and it ends up bad. And you gotta give them enough rope to make a mistake. And when they do, you got to be a man enough as a father to put them in line, and it's got to be rough. And they got to understand that they got a calling, and it's to be a man. It's not to be some version of whatever's on TV all the time.
We always called it man skills at the house. Be able to fix something, know what's going on. Don't holler for mama every time something goes wrong.
If they ever doubt it, just there's one place you can go, and it's the Bible. It tells you all about it. You can't believe part of it, not all of it.
That's right.
Either you do it, either you're in or you're out, and so the instruction book is there. You just gotta use it.
And it's just one of those deals. There's that point where you can't be the friend.
No,
you got to be the parent.
They got plenty of friends.
They got plenty of friends. That's right.
I already said the Bible and the Lonesome Dove are the two books. There's a little conflict there sometimes.
And Gus is always reading a good book.
Yeah, he read the good book.
They even knew a little Latin.
He did. So, well, that's going to wrap up our show. Me and Rudy here are available for after games, broadcast. If somebody wants to hire us, we'll be there. But thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, and we'll have another special guest here with us in the what do you call this, game room?
Yeah, or if it ever cools off, we're going out to the cook shack.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I'm ready for it to cool off. I know you guys on the football field at practice at 3:00 every day is ready for a cool off. So
it's time.
It's getting closer.
Well, Coach Belcher, we really appreciate you coming in and joining us this evening for this podcast, and we wish nothing but best for the Windthorst Trojans, and hopefully we can y'all keep things rolling.
All right, man. I sure appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming over.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. I think I stopped.